And this is why you shouldn't use inflation in your retirement plan. So hear me out. Hear me out before you hang up on this video, because I think this is actually quite important. I'm reading my book again. Well, not my book, but Days on the Family Farm. And I've read this before, but I'm reading again with a different set of eyes. And I come across this passage. All right. In 1910, a heavy snowstorm and cold spell in the late April froze the apple and cherry blossoms that came out in early spring and eliminated these crops. Even the blackberries are few and far between. January had so much severe cold that a coal famine threatens Rockford. And that's Rockford, Illinois. Says, that's interesting. And I said, let me look into my newspapers.com and see what we come up with. Type in newspapers.com, January 1910. I type in Illinois as a place because this is where Carrie had her Rockford, Illinois is where this book comes from. And I come across this article on 8 January 1910. Winter weather crisis reached. Chicago's great supply of coal has dwindled down to nothing. West report trains and snow plows missing and coal famine on. With only 2 days supply of coal in the average household and 1 day supply in the bins of large consumers, with the wartime prices on foodstuffs rapidly approaching. We're not in a war here. This is after the panic in 1907 too, by the way. It's 1910. Chicago today looked at the thermometers in which some parts of town register 10 below and try to figure out a way to prevent the closing of factories and office buildings. On December 1st, Chicago had the greatest reserve supply of coal in its history. 10 days ago, this reserve had been reduced to 60%, and today emergency fuel has practically disappeared. They blame the railways. High prices of food. Some of the most radical changes in retail costs of edibles are shown by the following prevailing figures. I'm just going to go to eggs. I think we got eggs right here. 20 to 22 cents for a dozen of eggs, and that's in 1910. 20 to 22 cents for a dozen eggs. So that's interesting. So I looked at this. Go into how much were eggs. Let me show you something else. Let's just go with this. So how much a dozen eggs cost a year you were born? All right. So I just want to be clear. When I was, let me show you something. 1910 in Morris County, New Jersey, which is actually where my sister lives, eggs cost 27 cents per dozen. Now this is in October 1910. But I want to go back here. This is a pretty interesting article. How much did eggs cost in the year you were born? And it only goes back as far as 1937, but we got 36 cents there. 36, 32. Interesting. 32 cents. So it went up from remember, 1910. We were at 20 to 22 cents, which is a huge increase in food price, high prices of food. All right, let's keep going here because I think it's important. So 1939, 1940. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit here to night. We're going to show you this thing. Here's 1947 at 70 cents a dozen, which is the equivalent of $8.16 today. $8.16, but still less from 1943 value, which were 57 cents. Well, I'm going to get that. $8.45 in today's dollars. There you go. $8.45. So 1943 is $8.45 in today's dollars. But I still want to show you something else there. So hang tight. Fast forward to 1953, and it cost 70 cents for a dozen eggs, which is about $6.59 in today's prices. So they've gone down significantly. So I was just at Costco the other day, and I got 2 dozen eggs for $6.49. Now you can say maybe they're not farm fresh. I don't know. I think they are. Let's see. Look, I don't trust any of the USDA stuff, but this was USDA organic. I don't even care that much. I mean, USDA organic. I don't really care so much about organics, but you know, I still like the idea of cage-free, which these are. Now I still kind of chuckle because cage-free doesn't mean they're free range. No, it just means they can go out in a 2x2 place of poop or something like that. But presumably, I don't know. My inclination is cage-free is not the same as free range, is my understanding. So, be it as it may, I still got to take care of number one here. Number one is my family, and here's 2 dozen eggs for $6.49, which are organic, USDA certified organic, which is silly, but be it as it may, cage-free. No hormones or antibiotics. Vegetarian fed with no animal byproducts. All right. And distributed by Costco. So there you go. I got 2 dozen eggs for $6.49 at Costco. All right, but it gets better too. So how do you adjust that for your inflation numbers? How do you quantify that? Will you say 3% a year? Why would you say that, man? Because going back to 1926, I mean, but things change year over year over year. But I want to show you something else even. So in 1955, eggs cost 61 cents per dozen. All right, 61 cents, which is down from right here, 74 cents just 4 years previous. But I still want to show you something else. Check this out. Disneyland 1955 also saw the release of the first microwave oven for home use. It cost about $12,000 in modern today. The first microwave cost $12,000. I'm looking over there at microwave right there. It ain't $12,000. And I'll tell you, I didn't have a microwave growing up. I never had one. I remember when I was in the Army in Honduras and I was getting ready to put some tinfoil. I think I had some tinfoil. I can't remember what I had. And my squad leader, Sergeant Jackson, he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "You don't put tinfoil in the microwave." I said, "Why not?" He said, where are you from, Scanlon? I said, "Maine." He goes, "Did you not ever have a..." Anyway, I'll never forget that. It was in 1990. I was in Honduras. Probably the first time I ever used a microwave. I didn't know you could put tinfoil in the microwave. You know what I'm saying? I never had one. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have one in Maine. I'm trying to think if I had one when I lived with my dad in Silver Spring. I can't recall. I don't think I ever had a microwave. Anyway, long story short is those microwaves, which you use all the time, I guarantee, I use quite a bit. How do you account for that for inflation? I mean, you can say the general cost of goods are going up, but that doesn't make any sense because the general cost of goods don't go up on a linear basis. So if you're not going to use a linear rate of return on your portfolio, which you shouldn't use a linear rate of inflation. On top of that, the linear rate of inflation includes, as I talked about before, transportation, buy a new car. You're not buying a new car. It includes buying a new house or renting. You're not buying a new house or renting. So why are we using this? That's why I just say 5%. 5% every year, man. You know what I'm saying? If the market, I'm just literally 5%. So I got $100,000, I'm taking 5,000 out. Next year is down to $80,000, I'll take 5% out. Following year is up to $150,000, I'm taking 5% out. Or even better, just say 5% initial amount. And if you want to adjust for inflation, you can. But what inflation do you use? 3%. But healthcare, healthcare is an inflation you should account for, 100%. But other stuff offsets that. We just saw the price of eggs, price of microwaves. We didn't even have a TV, a telephone, man. We had one phone. I mean, this is what I'm saying. It's like, how do you account for this stuff? You know what I'm saying? In inflation. I mean, so what I'm going to do is I'm write my book, The Inflation Myth in Your Retirement Plan, is I'm going to look at the price of foods, man. And so how do you say on a linear basis we're going to use eggs at 3% a year? When I just showed you, man, eggs aren't 3% a year. That'd be dumb. That'd be dumb to use. I'm going to look at ground chuck and a couple other products too. I say, how do you account for that as a linear basis? Like saying I get 10% a year in my portfolio. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that at all. And so you say, well, how do I make this simple? 5%. 5%. You start with 5%. The next year you say, okay, how much do I need? 5%. Just that simple. Love your thoughts. We'll see you